Hey everybody, Dan and Steve here on Yesshift and Drum Talk TV. Uh, it'd be hard to not go live and talk about this, but sometimes we, as a media company, media brands, we have to go online and talk about stuff that's not always great news, right, Steve?
Right, yeah. And this is one of those big pieces of news that we woke up to, or at least I woke up to it, and I saw that you had sent me a message, and my friend Chris Molina, who's a Moody Blues fan, sent a message, and I think we were both surprised by this, the passing of John Lodge, because he was still touring. He still had some December shows coming up. I was actually gonna try to go to the Cerritos show. I was looking forward to that. And I did see him in 2019 on the Royal Affair tour when he and his band toured with Yes and a couple of those other huge bands, and that was incredible. But yeah, this was again, like, it kind of feels out of nowhere. And I actually do have the statement from the family, which I can read.
Yeah, go ahead and read that. We'll put this up of the late, great John Lodge, who we'll talk more about after Steve reads the statement.
Yeah, and that's a great photo of him, in his
It
element
is.
in the live setting.
Totally. And he looks great too. For 82, he looked fantastic.
Yeah. So the statement said, "It is with the deepest sadness that we have to announce that John Lodge, our darling husband, father, grandfather, father-in-law, and brother, has been suddenly and unexpectedly taken from us. As anyone who knew this massive-hearted man knows, it was his enduring love of his wife, Kirsten, and his family that was the most important thing to him, followed by his passion for music and his faith. He was never happier than being on stage. He was just a singer in a rock and roll band, and he adored performing with his band and son-in-law, Jon Davison of Yes, and being able to continue sharing this music with his fans. It gave him even more joy to be able to work with his daughter Emily and son Christian and spend time watching his grandson John Henry play football and dream of him playing for Birmingham City one day. John peacefully slipped away, surrounded by his loved ones and the sounds of the Everly Brothers and Buddy Holly. We will forever miss his love, smile, kindness, and his absolute and never-ending support. We are heartbroken, but will walk forward into peace, surrounded by the love he had for each of us. As John would always say at the end of the show, thank you for keeping the faith." And they're not taking further comments, not making further comments at this time, but they shared a link to one of John's songs, Whispering Angels, which even before seeing the link, I actually decided to give the song a listen. And yeah, his EP, which came out earlier this year, Love Conquers All, was really great. I think we talked about it on the show.
We did. And apparently, Steve, and folks, chime in if you have a favorite work by John, whether on his solo work or Moody Blues or otherwise. Let us know. This is kind of a toast to his legacy and his musical life. And apparently something happened because he was surrounded by his family. But, details will come out later. We don't want to speculate. But he had, what I would refer to as, and I guess it'd be easy to take what I'm going to say the wrong way, but when I say he had like a everyman's voice, I kind of feel that way about John Wetton. Just a voice that, how could you not like that voice? I could understand why people might not like Geddy Lee's voice, or Ian Gillan, or Robert Plant, even for that matter, or Joe Cocker, or, there's some things that make someone's voice unique, not favorable to everybody. But he had just the voice that just fit so well with the music, and that was just so easy to absorb and take in the lyrics and everything.
Right, yeah. And he was with the Moody Blues for a real long time, from the 60s up until basically 2018 when they ended, but then continued playing their music beyond that. So like he was really passionate about continuing to share that music, and is just so amazing. Like I've listened to their discography in the late 2000s, and then it was sort of like a long time before I listened again as I got busy with other things, but they were like really amazing and formative and influential. I actually have a comment from my friend Chris, who, like I said, texted me this morning about the news. He says, asked him if you want to comment on this, and he said, the Moody Blues' music contributed to rock and roll more than we think. They combined classical music with rock, and I'm glad they were inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They deserved it.
Yeah, and I'll comment on that as well in a moment. But first, a comment from Robert Nasir watching us live on Facebook. It says, rest in peace, John. Several yes connections. And despite the way Patrick Mraz was arguably mistreated after his tenure in the Moody Blues as keyboardist on their 80s comeback albums, John Lodge's role bringing Jon Davison on as guest singer, and in the process bringing Jon Davison to meet his future wife, Emily, with John Lodge then becoming Jon Davison's father-in-law, more than makes up for any criticisms. May our grief be short and our memories long. And then spin the, I don't know what else he meant to say, but yeah, absolutely. What's interesting about the Moody Blues music is, like Chris said, blending, classical obviously with their music and the impact they had on rock and roll. To me, they were one of those progressive rock bands that was clearly progressive, but not out there. You know what I mean?
I feel they were pretty psychedelic in places. So
yeah, especially the earlier years. But I think a lot of their music was more accessible than a lot of prog bands' music is to the general audience. Is what I mean.
Yeah, I get what you're saying there.
Yeah, if you listen to the album Red or Close to the Edge, like that's not for everybody. But the Moody Blues music was prog, but yet I think had more of a mass appeal to it, which says a lot about their formula.
Yeah. And, again, the mention of Jon Davison here, I remember, basically since 2019, Jon Davison had been guesting at John Lodge's shows on a couple songs. Nights in White Satin was one of them, and sung beautifully. And I think when we talked with John a few months ago, he talked about how whenever they go on stage, they're always trying to bring the Moody Blues music the best that they can, and I think they really did achieve that, honoring the legacy of the band and his history with it.
Yeah.
He was just really active with that, and I'm glad we were able to get him on the show, and it was somewhat recent, which is again why this came as such a shock to us. Like because you just never know.
Yeah, he seemed so sharp and with it, and most of all seemed so friendly and humble. And was it John himself that you were just emailing with the other day about coming on for a fan Q&A session in the membership site?
Yeah, so I was messaging one of our contacts who's in contact with him, and so that was in progress. He was interested, and then had to do a tour, and then we received details about how long the Q&A session could be, and then our contact reached out again, and now it's what happened. So
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was very generous with his time. That with the interview, and just a really kind person. He just seemed like a really friendly guy.
Yeah, and you could see him light up when he would talk about his music and everything going on. It was very genuine. It was an honor to have him on. I mean, he's absolute legend in music.
Yeah, definitely. So again, I'm sure people are like probably getting emails from like ticket sites regarding the upcoming shows now. But yeah, I see another comment from Robert Nasir saying, "For me, the Royal Affair tour was a top favorite from the last 10 years. Yes, with Asia, John Lodge, Carl Palmer's ELP Legacy, magnificent." Yeah, like the Yes concerts I've been to, they're all memorable in their own way. And this one, what made it really memorable was it felt like a prog music festival because of how stacked the
Yeah.
lineup was. And unbeknownst to us, that tour came before what would happen in 2020. We'd have a bit of a hiatus from touring from lots of bands because of that. So kind of lived with that memory of what at the time felt like that last tour for a while. I saw that at the Irvine Amphitheater, I believe it was called. It was like this outdoor venue, and like it was a huge audience, and the bands were just. It was such a great memory that day.
Yeah, I remember you wore that shirt the last time we had Carl Palmer on, but all he could see on your shirt was yes. So he says, "You got
Oh,
your yes shirt on. Where's your ELP shirt?" And you stood up and said, "It's the Royal Affair. You're right there." And you're like, "Oh,
yeah.
okay." And then he was okay with it.
Yeah. I remember Carl. I think that was maybe before the show, like right before the show where you interviewed him and we're getting ready. And he mentioned that um, he really enjoyed that tour. And I think they were hoping to take it to Europe, but I don't
Yeah.
know if like maybe the, I don't know, maybe they were expecting more ticket sales than they got or something. But that was an incredible tour. And like, if you went there, like you were really fortunate. Like I loved it.
Is there a DVD or anything like that of one
There's
of those, an official
I
release?
I know that Yes have a live album from that tour, and I think
Yeah.
John Lodge also had one, which we may have mentioned before. Let me just fact check that.
Okay. While you do that,
Um,
it would be nice to see like a compilation even of a couple or three songs from each band from that show, to
yeah.
sort of encapsulate what that was, because it'll
Oh,
never happen again.
okay, so it's a live album called The Royal Affair and After. So yeah, this is all coming back to me. Like it was recorded during the Royal Affair tour, and also like a few shows or a few tracks from the tour that happened after for John
Yeah.
Lodge.
Yeah. Well, we're sure it's a hard time for his family and everybody that was close to him, especially when it's so unexpected.
Yeah. But I mean, surrounded by music, like the statement mentioned here,
Yeah.
it sounds like it may have been a peaceful passing. And but again, you just never know when someone is going to be gone. So
Yeah.
we should all be thankful for what people give from their art and all the interactions that we all have with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes a lot of the drama and stuff that we see on the news and social media even just that much more petty. I think it's so important to really have perspective, and sometimes it's something like this that you know is sort of a wake-up call, if you will.
Yeah, definitely.
So folks, if you're still watching live, and or if you're seeing this on the archive, we'd love for you to chime in on wherever you're seeing this, on Facebook or YouTube, on the Yesshift channels or Drum Talk TV, and let us know your favorite work by John, if you saw him live, if you ever met him at a meet and greet or anything at all like that, or worked with him. Go ahead and put your story in the comments. It'd be our way of honoring such a great musician that brought literally like 5 decades of music. That's quite an accomplishment. Like, who has the same job for 5 decades anymore?
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
crazy.
It's really huge. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, John, we will miss you, but your music lives on.
Yeah, definitely. Gone but not forgotten. And you can bet that I'm gonna be like listening to some Moody Blues music on shuffle these coming days now.
Yeah, same. Absolutely. All right, folks. Thanks for joining us for this toast to Mr. Lodge, who's no longer with us. And
Right.
we'll see you all soon.
Yeah. See you all soon, everyone. Take care.